Welcome to Quicksand, the most important news in pharma and biotech this week. As part of an effort to spur the development of new antimicrobial drugs intended for limited patient populations, the FDA issued draft guidance with recommendations for demonstrating the safety and effectiveness of such drugs. In recent years, Congress has attempted to address shortfalls in the development of new antimicrobial drugs as resistance to existing drugs mounts and questions about the economic viability of new antimicrobial drugs loom. The 2012 Generating Antibiotic Incentives Now Act, which created the Qualified Infectious Disease Product designation, and the more recent 21st Century Cures Act, which established the Limited Population Pathway for Antibacterial and Antifungal Drugs, or LPAD, strive to ease some of those challenges. According to FDA, the 14-page draft guidance provides considerations for demonstrating safety and effectiveness for limited population antimicrobial drugs and explains the criteria and process for using the LPAD pathway. The guidance also provides recommendations for developing labeling, including prescribing information, patient labeling, and cartoon container labeling that informs patients and physicians that the product was approved based on evidence from a limited population. When reviewing products under the LPAD pathway, FDA says it will consider the severity, rarity, and prevalence of the infection the product is intended to treat, and whether there are alternatives that can be used to treat the product's intended population. FDA also says it will accept greater uncertainty and higher risk for products that qualify for the pathway, and that drugs with risks that would be unacceptable for a broader population may be acceptable for serious infections in limited patient populations when there is an unmet need. In a draft guidance, the FDA details how drug makers can gather comprehensive and representative input from patients. The guidance is the first of a four-part series of guidance documents required under the patient-focused drug development component of the 21st Century Cures Act and is meant to provide methodological recommendations for how to collect and submit information gathered from patients and caregivers as part of regulatory submissions. The 65-page draft guidance includes recommendations for drug makers looking to incorporate patient experience data and other patient-focused information into their drug development programs, focusing specifically on who such information should be gathered from and how that information is collected. The guidance also provides recommendations for both qualitative and quantitative research methods for analyzing patient experience data, as well as advice on how to operationalize and standardize data collection and data management. The next guidance in the series will focus on what questions to ask patients and caregivers and how to ask them, how to decide what patient-focused outcomes to measure in a clinical trial, and how to determine an appropriate clinical trial endpoint using a patient-focused clinical outcome assessment. A staff manual detailing the FDA's internal policies and processes for handling inter-center consult requests for combination product reviews has been updated for the first time in 14 years to reflect changes to the process and feedback from external and internal surveys. FDA says the manual is meant to describe the agency's policies for when and how to request, receive, process, and track the progress of inter-center consult requests between its three review centers: the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, the Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research, and the Center for Devices and Radiological Health. The manual is being updated to address issues identified in a 2014 survey conducted by the Combination Products Coalition, which recommended the agency develop cross-center policies for issues impacting combination product regulation, like usability testing, so the different groups are coordinated as much as possible in advance. FDA later confirmed some of the findings from the Coalition survey through an internal study in 2015. In response, FDA piloted a new set of inter-center consult request processes in August 2016. According to FDA, the updated staff manual reflects the results of the pilot and requirements to ensure more timely and effective reviews for products involving more than one review center under the 21st Century Cures Act. Manufacturers of combination products were offered a list of flexible mechanisms that can be used to comply with the FDA's requirements for good manufacturing practices. The proposal satisfies a mandate from the 21st Century Cures Act of 2016 that called on FDA to periodically issue a list identifying the types of combination products and manufacturing processes for which alternative or streamlined mechanisms can help meet the requirements of a 2013 final rule. To concurrently comply with the agency's drug GMP requirements, and the Device Quality System Regulation, manufacturers of single-entity and co-packaged combination products can implement an operating system that blends certain provisions of both regulations under the final rule. The new list is aimed at providing the additional clarifications on the GMP requirements that apply to combination products, with several references made to a January 2017 final guidance on the matter. Mechanisms described relate to product sample testing and distribution, stability testing, keeping reserve samples, among other requirements specific to products that are regulated as drugs by FDA. In developing combination products treated as devices for regulatory purposes, mechanisms for compliance include the use of pharmaceutical practices for design controls and exemptions from provisions of the Device Quality System Regulation. The process for interacting with agency staff, suggestions for content and submission to FDA, agency review practices, and other considerations on the proposed mechanisms are discussed in the list as well. The European Medicines Agency is launching an online portal for orphan drug designations. EMA wants sponsors to start using the portal from June 19th in anticipation of it becoming mandatory 3 months from now. Once live, the portal will provide sponsors with a new way to file for orphan drug status and manage their existing designations. EMA thinks creating a single platform for the submission of and access to orphan drug designation data and documents will result in quicker, easier access to information and improved data quality. Sponsors will also receive automatic status updates. Sponsors will need to invest some time up front to realize these benefits. EMA thinks sponsors will be able to navigate the system after reviewing a simple guidance document it will release next week, but first they will need to register as portal users. EMA is phasing in the use of the portal over the next 3 months, over which time sponsors can continue to apply for orphan drug designations via existing processes. To ensure the portal is ready for the September end to the transition, EMA is gathering feedback from 26 organizations through a user acceptance testing program. The initiative will source feedback on the guidance and user interface. The rollout of the portal is part of an EMA-wide program to improve its interaction with industry and management of master data, the reusable non-transactional information that is key to the core operation of businesses. Thank you for listening to Quicksand, episode 35, June 18th, 2018.